might carry out the threat that he made in August, other than what he told you regarding that one incident? What other things formed your opinion that he might carry out that threat prior to the burning of the boat?
Well, particularly because there was...
To which we object as not being proper redirect examination.
It's within the question brought up by counsel on the cross-examination, so certainly it's a proper area for redirect, any area brought up by cross-examination.
Where did you acquire this other information? Was it hearsay? Something somebody told you outside the courtroom?
At that particular time, it was mostly just because I had had almost 2 years of negative contacts with Mr. Jacobs, and so I didn't feel that the outburst was an isolated event.
Objection is overruled.
Did anybody in the harbor tell you anything about outbursts from Mr. Jacobs?
That would be hearsay, and so objected.
Sustained. We're beating a dead horse. It's getting late. Let's move on.
Okay, did you consider Mr. Jacobs' boat, the White Hawk, to be abandoned at the time of December 6th?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I show you what's been marked for identification as people's number 46 and ask you to identify and describe what that is, the bottom section.
It's a copy of a page out of our Port District Ordinance book, and in particular, the bottom portion outlines abandoned vessels and also the disposition of the abandoned vessels.
Counsel, would you like to see? I'd ask it be admitted into evidence. Any problem?
46 is admitted into evidence, there being no objection.
Thank you. I have no further questions at this time.
May I, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
Mr. Shaw, from your experience as a harbor master, getting back to the destruction of the White Hawk and your lien, and are you familiar with the law that a lien transfers no title to property?
Yes, I am.
If your lien transfers no title to property, by what right does the Port District have to destroy this vessel?
Objection.
You're asking him a legal question that he's not qualified to answer.
May I be heard?
Go ahead.
From your knowledge and your experience in handling liens, and I forget the number that you said that you had personally handled with that background, I now ask you, from that knowledge and from that experience, don't you know that a lien transfers no title to property?
I do know that.
And also the same question, a lien is not an interest in the property, correct?
Objection again. Once again, this is a legal question.
I'll withdraw the question. From your education, knowledge, experience, and the handling of the number of liens that you have handled prior to the execution by your office of the so-called Jacobs lien, you know that a lien creates no interest in property?
Objection again. This is a legal question beyond the competence of this witness.
I don't know what you mean.
You can ask him, you know, what his state of mind is if it's relevant for some reason, but he's not an expert in the law. And as far as that goes, he apparently called his attorney. He says he did it on the basis of what his attorney told him to do.
Okay, thank you. What was your state of mind as to whether or not any lien claimed by the Port District, in fact, entitled them to an interest in that property?
I don't exactly know what you mean by interest in the property.
That's the problem, Mr. Doyle. Interest is a legal term, and you're using it in the legal sense, not the common sense that's used every day on the street.
Well, I'll use it in 2 ways, I hope. Mr. Shaw, I think you said you majored in English?
I majored in philosophy.
Philosophy, I beg your pardon. Well, forget the legal aspect for the moment. At your age and your education, your experience, you know what an interest in property is, don't you?
I would assume it means a recorded right to some portion of the property or all the property.
Well, all right. Have you studied law, Mr. Shaw?
No.
In your experience in handling lien matters, have you had occasion to discuss legal matters with your attorney?
Yes.
No further questions.
Any further questions?
I have nothing.
Okay, call your next witness.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Larry White, spelled W-H-I-T-E.
What is your occupation?
Deputy Harbor Master with the Port District.
Were you employed in that capacity during the year and at the present time?
Yes, I was.
Are you familiar with the gentleman known to you as Glenn Jacobs?
Yes, I am.
Do you see him present in the courtroom here today?
Yes, I do.
Would you point him out and describe what he's wearing?
Gentleman sitting at the other counter with a brown and white shirt.
You see the light on there?
The bottom one's not on.
No, on the camera?
The red light's on, yes.
Camera light's on, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. I am defense attorney Ms. Walsh, W-A-L-S-H.
I am the court.
I am the witness.
I am plaintiff's attorney, Miss
Bloomfield.
Bloomfield.
Okay, can you hear everybody? Okay. All right, so starts at the top, March in the court.
Call the case of Joe Carr. State your appearances.
Lori Walsh appearing with Mr. Carr, who's present.
Susan Bloomfield, on behalf of the people. People are ready to proceed in this matter.
Call your first witness.
People call Officer Downing.
Please come forward, officer. Raise your right hand. Take a seat, officer. Tell us your first name, please, and spell your last name.
My name is Rodolfo Downing, R-O-D-O-L-F-O, last name D-O-W-N-I-N-G.
How are you employed?
I'm employed by the San Jose Police Department, City of San Jose,
How long have you been a police officer with the police department?
over 6 years.
And in your employment as a police officer, have you had training and experience in the recognition and identification of controlled substances, particularly phencyclidine?
I have, yes.
And can you tell us briefly what training consists of?
That consisted of approximately a 40-hour block of instruction in general narcotics at the academy initially, and throughout the years we have received training with the department, what is called continuous police training. That covers about a week every year, and during those blocks we receive approximately 1 hour of instruction, different drugs, narcotics. Throughout the years I have made several arrests, approximately 150 arrests and contacts with individuals being under the influence of PCP, and I think I qualified previously in a prior case at municipal court in the recognition or as an expert in the field of PCP.
Have you also learned what constitutes usable quantities of PCP?
Yes, I have.
Were you on duty Saturday, January 6th of 1990?
Yes, I was.
At approximately 1:30 a.m., did you have occasion to be in the area of 2968 Betsy Way, B-E-T-S-Y, in the city of San Jose, county of Santa Clara?
Yes.
Is there anyone in the courtroom today who was also there at that time on that date?
Yes.
Could you please point to where that person is sitting and state what that person is wearing?
The individual that was present at the time is at the defendant table wearing green shirt, green pants, hair, mustache.
Let the record indicate an in-court identification of Mr. Carr.
Where was the defendant when you first saw him?
He was in front of the residence, right in the front lawn area.
Did you notice anything about him in particular?
At the initial contact, or when I first saw him, he was standing there. When I came to a stop in the patrol car I was driving, the defendant looked at me and also his partner.
When you say his partner, what do you mean?
There was another person with him.
With him. Was there anybody else with you?
Yes,
And who was that?
Officer Metcalf.
And when he looked at you, what happened next?
As I was coming to a stop, both the defendant and his partner,
Objection, Your Honor. Mischaracterization of the person with defendant as a partner.
Just tell him, just say the other person with him.
Mr. Carr and he had a companion. They started walking away from us.
And what, if anything, did you notice about them as they walked?
They both had a very unsteady, slow walk. This type of walk is very characteristic of individuals being under the influence of PCP. Their body movements are very rigid and slow robot-like movements.
And what did you do then?
I got out of my patrol car and started walking towards them. I followed Mr. Carr a few steps.
And where did Mr. Carr go?
He was walking westbound through the right front yard as you face the residence towards a car that was parked there.
What did he do then?
At that time, I was about 6 steps behind him and I saw him drop a hand-rolled cigarette.
From his hand?
Yes.
And what did you do then?
I continued following him and grabbed him by the right arm and turned him around.
What did you notice, if anything?
At that time, he started asking why, what was wrong, and I immediately noticed that he was obviously intoxicated, under the influence of PCP. His blank stare, the way he was speaking to me, he was obviously intoxicated.
What did you do then?
I placed him under arrest and took him to the back of the patrol car.
What did you do then?
Came back to the scene and picked up the hand-rolled cigarette and helped Officer Metcalf to conduct the arrest of the second individual.
I'm holding in my hand a San Jose Police Department evidence envelope marked case number 60098. Officer Downing, date January 6, 1990. It contains a clear plastic strip and also a small plastic baggie sealed with a red tape and contains what appears to be a hand-rolled cigarette. I would ask it be marked Peoples 1 for identification.
Be so marked as Peoples 1.
I'm showing it to counsel. May I approach the witness?
Certainly.
Officer Downing, showing you what has been marked as Peoples 1 for identification, do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
This envelope is used by the San Jose Police Department for processing of narcotics at Central Supply. I did fill out this envelope and the writing on the stickers is mine. I also recognize the appearance of the hand-rolled cigarette that I put in, basically, by my handwriting.
Is this the hand-rolled cigarette in the same or substantially the same condition as it was when you first saw it?
No, later I opened the cigarette to see what was inside.
Uh-huh. And did you then re-roll the cigarette?
No, when I opened it, I just made a slight incision. I didn't open it all the way, but it's in the same condition I put it in.
It's the same condition it was when you put it in the bag?
Yes.
Based on your training and experience, did you come to some opinion as to what was contained within Peoples 1?
Yes.
And what opinion is that?
The hand-rolled cigarette has parsley leaves, which is commonly used in the processing or the manufacture of the PCP cigarette, and also in combination with parsley leaves, there were some crystals, a powdery substance.
Did you come to some opinion as to what that substance was?
Yes, I believed, prior to conducting a chemical Valtox test, I believed it was phencyclidine.
And does it constitute a usable quantity of phencyclidine?
This consists of more than a usable amount. 2 or 3 individuals can make use of this cigarette.
I have no further questions at this time.
Cross-examine, please.
If I can have a moment, Your Honor. Officer, when you arrived at 2968 Betsy Way, was anyone other than Mr. Carr and the other person that you said was there present?
I only saw them 2 at the time.
So you only saw 2 people standing out in front of the residence?
Yes.
Officer, did you prepare a report in connection with this incident?
Yes, I did, ma'am.
And when you prepared this report, did you include in it everything that you thought was significant about the incident?
That is correct.
You were trained at the academy, were you not? That it was important to prepare a complete report for your own purposes?
Yes.
And you were also trained, were you not, to prepare a report because the attorneys in the case would rely upon it? Is that right?
That's correct.
After you prepared it, did you read it over to assure its accuracy?
Yes.
And before you testified today, did you also review your report?
I reviewed it briefly, yes.
Is there anything about your report at this time that you feel is inaccurate?
No, not to the best of my knowledge.
Is there anything about your report that should be deleted at this time based on your recollection of the incident?
Not to my knowledge.
Is there anything that you would think needs to be added to your report that you recall now that wasn't included in the report at the time that you wrote it?
It all depends on what issue you are going to bring about. The report is written for my own recollection. There are items or situations that did not occur that are in my memory that could not be on the report of less significance.
Officer, I'm going to ask you to take a look at the first couple pages of your report, the one that says crime report in the upper left-hand corner of the page.
You are talking about the first page or second page?
Well, I'm talking about, I believe it's the first page.
Yes.
Did you prepare the first page of this report?
No, I did not. In this particular page, I filled out the suspect's information. Officer Metcalf filled the item number 1 and items 15 and 16.
I'm sorry, Officer Metcalf filled out item 15?
Yes.
Okay, and he wrote out item 16 as well?
Let me go over it again.
Okay.
Officer Metcalf filled number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 15, 16, item 42, item 43, item 47, and item 48.
Okay, Officer, you lost me when you said item 42.
Okay, I'm sorry.
What word is in item 42?
C report.
Oh, I see. Down at the bottom of the page?
Yes, and item 43, it also says C report and item 47.
And where is item 47?
Investigating officers Downing and Metcalf.
All right.
And item 48.
Did you fill in item 48?
Yes, I did.
And that lists suspect number 1?
Yes.
And suspect number 2?
Yes.
And suspect number 3?
My apologies. On suspect number 2, that was filled out by Officer Metcalf.
Okay, and on the second page of your report, there's another at the bottom of the page?
Yes.
Where it says listed in?
That's correct.
Says suspect number 4?
That's correct.
Who filled out that?
That was filled out by Officer Metcalf.
So you filled out suspect number 1 and suspect number 3 then, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And those were the only 2 people, suspect number 1 and suspect number 3, that you saw at the scene, is that right?
No, I think Mr. Gallegos number 2, I think, is the one that was with Mr. Carr at the time.
And where do you recall seeing suspect 3?
I believe he was in the backyard.
You don't recall at this time?
No, there were several people that we made contact with after the initial contact with Mr. Carr. That was due to the fact that there were several people that ran through the side of the residence.
How many people would you say ran through the side of the residence?
I don't know, once I came back from placing him in the back of my patrol car and I was helping Officer Metcalf, I heard just a scuffle of people just running through the side of the house.
When you say him, you mean Mr. Carr. You mean after you placed him in the back of your patrol car?
Yes, Your Honor.
At any time, did you see anyone else in the front lawn area of the residence?
Objection, vague as to time.
Yes, why don't you refine it a little bit?
Before you placed Mr. Carr under arrest and after you arrived at 2968 Betsy Way, did you see anyone else other than Mr. Carr and the man that you said was with him in the front of the residence?
No, ma'am.
Officer Downing, can you tell me what the lighting conditions were in the front of the residence?
The front of the residence was well lit. There was a light on the front porch.
A single porch light?
I don't recall, but it was very well lit, ma'am.
Do you recall seeing any street lights in the area?
I believe there was one a little bit to the side of the residence, but I'm not sure. I just recall the area being well lit.
Did you have your police vehicle lights on and focused on the front lawn area?
The car was facing westward. Whatever light that originated from the headlights might have covered a portion of that area.
Did you have a spotlight focused on the front lawn area?
No, I don't recall that. I don't think so.
Did you have a flashlight? Were you using a flashlight to illuminate the front yard area?
No, ma'am.
When you approached Mr. Carr, you said he walked in an unsteady and slow manner, is that right?
Yes.
If I could just have one moment, Your Honor, when you followed Mr. Carr, did he continue to walk in an unsteady, slow manner that you previously described?
Yes.
How many steps did he take away from you?
One, when I got out of my patrol car or after I had him stop,
When you got out of your patrol car?
he must have walked up 10 to 15 feet.
Is that 10 to 15 steps or 10 to 15 feet?
10 to 15 feet from the sighting of him.
And then you got out of your police car?
Yes.
And he continued to walk away as you tried to approach him?
Yes, ma'am.
At what point did you tell him to stop?
He had crossed the walkway. The lawn is separated by 2 lawns, or there is a first portion. He was walking across the walkway, the walkway to the front of the residence.
Are you saying the front yard is divided by a walkway from the sidewalk to the front door?
Right.
You mean parkway? They call it the parkway strips in some places.
From the sidewalk, from the front door, there's a little walkway. He was going across that area.
So the yard is divided into 2 lane areas then?
Yes.
And he had walked across one of the lawn areas and was walking across the sidewalk to the front door?
No, he was walking westbound across. The house is facing north.
Okay.
Okay, so he was walking right across the little walkway. That's where he dropped
When did you tell him to stop?
as I was getting out of my car or closing the door.
Were you approaching him when you said you saw him drop something?
I was still walking. We both were still walking.
Were you on his left or his right at that time?
I was right behind him, ma'am.
Now, from which hand did you see something drop?
I saw it from the left side of his body.
And did you see his hand open?
All I saw was the item being dropped, and I grabbed him and turned him around.
So you saw the item fall?
Yes.
Where did the item land?
It landed right next to the little walkway. Right after it landed, I was trying to handcuff him. He tried to step on it and tried to move, like scrub, the PCP, cigarette like to destroy type of thing. Then I pushed him momentarily.
Officer, do you recall if he tried to step on it with his left foot or his right foot?
I don't recall exactly. I know I was trying to push him away from it. I don't recall which one it was.
Did he step on it?
Yes, he did.
And did he manage to scrape it along the pavement?
It wasn't on the pavement. Exactly where the cigarette had landed was dirt area. Momentarily he did.
You saw him scrape it along the ground?
Yeah, the cigarette didn't dissolve or break apart.
Did you then manage to handcuff him?
Yes, I did.
Did you at any time have to take out your baton?
Yes, I did.
And did you in fact use your baton in arresting Mr. Carr?
I used it as a control device. You guys see it? They can see it.
On the camera?
There's a little red light.
Now I have
Focused on me, my big.
I'll cut that out. I didn't even try it to see if all three would work though.
Oh. Cigarette?
She has one in room. Talk. Can you hear all three of us now? Oh, you can't hear me? No, it won't work that way. Yeah. Okay, I am. Oh, sorry, right down there.
I am for the defense, Mr. White, W-H-I-T-E.
I am the court.
I am the witness.
I am plaintiff's attorney, Mr. Lewis, L-E-W-I-S. Okay, starts on line 15. Ready? Mark this diagram with the number 3. Do you recognize this diagram with the number 3 on it, generally depicting the downtown area of Sacramento on 8th between K Street and L?
Right.
Would you take the red pin and show us when you came out of the Diamond Club which direction you went? May I inquire, can the jury see the diagram?
If you don't see it, they can stand or tell me if you don't see it.
When you came out of the Diamond Club, which direction did you go?
There is a corner.
Take a red pin and show us where you went.
I came out here. I headed up this way. Police cruiser parked up here. I could see the front end of the car on the mall.
Is that marked police vehicle?
Here, right here.
Which way did Red go?
Red, he took L Street this way towards the Greyhound. Greyhound is over here, L Street over this way.
Would you draw a line in the direction you saw him go?
He went over this way.
Would you draw a line? Show us which way.
The other subject went up this way, down this way, in the alley.
Draw it in solid so they can see it. Press hard. Make a line. You can take your seat now. Did you go up to the police officers?
Right.
What did you do?
I told them that I just got robbed.
What happened then?
They come right down there by the alley. One fellow got out of the cruiser. He walked down to see if he could see him. He was already gone.
Did you tell the officer? Did you describe Red to the officers?
Right.
How did you describe what he was wearing?
I described white jacket, gray dots on it, black with a front here about this far in here. Both sides, only this far here is dark black and the rest is white with gray spots dark up here.
Showing you a jacket with identification tag number 9176 number on 2 on it. Do you recognize that jacket?
Right.
Is that the jacket
That is the jacket he wore at the time.
Talking about Red,
Yeah,
the defendant in this case here,
right.
did the officers eventually drop you off downtown? Did they leave you?
He went back to the Diamond Club. They had the door locked.
What time was this when you went back to the Diamond Club the first time?
Just very shortly afterwards.
About what time was it?
Well, sir, I'd say about 1:25, something around there when I got robbed. It was only maybe 10 minutes afterwards.
Did you say the door was locked to the Diamond Club?
Yeah, they had the door locked.
Did you eventually get in?
She opened up
By she, who are you talking about?
The bartender, the lady.
What happened after that?
We went in to see if they wandered back in there. Neither one of them was there.
What happened after that?
Went back out, went over to 7th Street off L, over by the bus station there. We talked a little while there in the cruiser, made out a report.
Did the officers eventually drop you off someplace?
Dropped me off over here.
What did you do after that?
I hung around to see one of them might come back.
Did you see this defendant, the one that you know as Red later on?
Yes, he did come back over to the chicken house.
Can you show us on the diagram where the chicken house is? Take the red pin and...
Would be